Off Andros, in the Bahamas, there are places where the sea just gives way to the dark. From the air, they're perfect circles, dark eyes, gazing up through the turquoise. Science calls them blue holes. Andros has better than 200, more than you'll find anywhere else on Earth. But ask the fishermen of Andros, and they'll not talk geology. They'll tell you these holes breathe. Twice a day, the water gets sucked down in a spiral, as though something vast were drawing breath beneath them, and hours on, up it comes again, cold and oddly clear, straight from the deep. A breath in, a breath out. And if a thing breathes, well, then a thing's alive. The old folk handed down a name, not one you'd come out with while there's sea beneath your boat. For round here, they reckon the creature's listening, the Lusca. But not every soul stopped at the surface. One man went down where no fisherman ever would. A British diver, Rob Palmer, who'd give years of his life to these drowned caves, chasing after the very thing the old stories told him to leave well alone. Some reckon it's a giant octopus, a giant scuttle, as they call it in the Bahamas. An octopus bigger than any ship afloat. Others make out something stranger, the head and body of a shark, trailing off into endless tentacles. Half shark, half octopus, dredged up out of the sea's own nightmares. But on one thing they all agree: the arms. Arms better than 20 meters long. Long enough for one end to take hold of the bottom, while the other creeps up, slowly, towards the light. Which is why the fisherman fell back on another name for it, the one with hands. And the rule, handed down from one generation to the next, boils down to a single line: never cast your nets where the water has no bottom. Palmer had grown up on those same tales, and where the fishermen backed off, he pressed on, down into the very dark they'd spent their whole lives steering clear of. But hunger and pride have a way of drowning out a warning. One morning, so they say, 4 fishermen from Andros set out for a blue hole known to be teeming with fish. An old man watched them push off. He said just one thing: the sea will let you come. It's the going back she'll decide. Once they'd pulled up over the hole, the eldest muttered a prayer. The youngest just burst out laughing. The Lusca was now but a tale to frighten the little ones. And the nets went over the side, where the water has no bottom. The first sign wasn't a sound. It was the silence. The birds cleared off. The wind died down. And the water round the boat turned from turquoise to deepest blue. Then the water started boiling up. When the sea settled back down, one man was left, the eldest, the one who'd prayed, hanging onto a plank of the boat, alone on water gone smooth again, as if nothing had happened at all. The current carried him back to the island as night came on. The whole village came down to the shore. Nobody asked a thing. Behind him, out on the water, nothing. No boat, No nets, no bodies. The sea had given back only him. Only the old man kept his distance. He stayed at the far end of the beach, facing the sea. They say he never spoke. Not a word of blame. Nothing. He just looked out at the black water a long while, then turned his back on it. From that day on, in the village, they don't bring up the names of the 3 who were lost. They only say the hole took them. But to understand the Lusca, we must go deeper than the legend. We must go back in time. Long before today's fishermen, these islands belonged to the Lucayans, the Taino people of the Bahamas. They called themselves Lucayan, the island people, and to them, the blue holes were no danger. They were doorways, doorways to the world below, the realm of the dead, where the spirits of the ancestors dwelt. The Opia, the Lucayans gave their dead to the dark water, to see them through their passage to the other world. You don't go down into a blue hole. You give it your dead, and you come back up. And this is no mere belief. In the 1970s, divers found, at the bottom of a hole called Stargate, Lucayan bones and a canoe. A whole canoe laid down there centuries ago in the utter silence of the deep. The man who found them was Rob Palmer. He and his wife Stephanie had spent years working through the drowned caves of Andros. And there, in the dark, Palmer came upon what the Lucayans had left behind, their dead, and the canoe that carried them. Then, years later, the canoe vanished from the site. Taken by looters, some said. Others weren't so sure. And here the story takes a staggering turn. For the Lusca isn't spoken of only in the Bahamas. Hundreds of miles away, off Belize, lies the most famous of all these chasms, the Great Blue Hole, 300 meters wide, a perfect circle you can pick out from space. And there too, the fishermen speak of the creature. Further off still, in the jungles of the Yucatan, the earth opens onto freshwater wells the Maya called cenotes. And to them, these chasms were exactly what the Lucayans saw in the blue holes. Doorways. Doorways to their own land of the dead. Xibalba. They cast down offerings. Gold. Jade. And at times, more than that. Let's pause a moment. 2 peoples, set apart by the whole Caribbean Sea, who never once crossed paths, and who, faced with the same bottomless water, saw the same thing, a doorway to the kingdom of the dead, as though these chasms were whispering to every soul alike the very same secret. Then came history's great tearing apart. The slave ships brought to the Bahamas men and women torn from Africa. They came ashore with their memories, their gods, and their sacred waters. And when the old Yoruba set eyes on the blue holes, they knew them for something. They saw in them the home of a water spirit brought over from Africa, Oshun Ololodi, keeper of the deep waters. And so, on the very same black water, memory settled upon memory. The Lucayan door of the dead, the Xibalba of the Maya, the water spirit of the Africans. And out of that meeting, in the evening gatherings, a 4th figure took shape, darker, hungrier, the keeper of the blue holes, the Lusca. Just superstition Then the accounts want explaining. 1836. An American captain tells how a creature with enormous arms carried off 2 of his crew. The men are said to have hacked off one of the monster's arms, and that arm, so the story goes, was put on show at the famous Barnum Museum in New York, 1896. On a Florida beach at St. Augustine, the sea gives up a huge mass, pale, shapeless, several tons of it. Some scientists take it for the remains of a colossal octopus, proof at last that the Lusca is real. The row would drag on 100 years. The final verdict from the tests: whale tissue. One legend the fewer, perhaps, or proof that for a century, even science half wanted to believe. The 1950s. On Grand Bahama, the fishing guides tell of giant scuttles with arms better than 20 meters, turning up 3 times in a single generation, always in shallow water, always dying. 1970. Diva. George Benjamin works his way through the holes of Andros for National Geographic. His guide begs him not to go down. The one with hands will do for you. Even Jacques Cousteau takes an interest in these fishing lines, snapped by something huge, out between Florida and the Bahamas. And it was Benjamin who handed the work on to Rob Palmer. Through the 80s, Palmer and his team pushed further into the Andros caves than anyone before them. Mile after mile of drowned passage in the dark, chasing down the geology behind the legend. His 1987 Andros project would go on to become the most ambitious blue hole expedition ever mounted, and nearer our own day. In 2009, a fisherman from Andros looks into the camera and lays out what he saw in deep water. A creature with the head of a shark and tentacles. 7 years on, another investigator puts the same questions to him. His account hadn't shifted by a single word. So what really lies sleeping in the blue holes? Science has its answers. These chasms were carved out in the Ice Age, when the sea lay 120 meters lower. The rain ate into the limestone and hollowed out underground cathedrals. Then the ocean rose back up and drowned them. But science has turned up something the old ones could never have dreamed of. Below a certain depth, the blue holes run clean out of oxygen. A layer of toxic gas hangs there, dead still, like a yellow cloud held in the water. And underneath that cloud, nothing rots, nothing breaks down. Ever. So the deep keeps hold of everything. Skeletons, whole and untouched. Entire wrecks. Boat engines, sitting in the dark, as good as the day they went under. The divers who make it down far enough pass through a museum of silence, where every object tells of someone gone. The Lusca, the old ones say, doesn't eat its victims. It collects them. As for the rest, the Lusca's breathing, tidal currents of real violence, strong enough to drag a swimmer under. The tentacles, a stray giant squid, maybe, caught sight of at the surface. The disappearances, divers who lost their way in mazes where the smallest slip is fatal. It all adds up, nearly all of it. For science explains the currents. It explains the deeps with no oxygen. But it can't explain why 4 peoples in 4 different ages, never once crossing paths, all felt the very same thing before these waters. There's something down there, and best you leave it be. Rob Palmer knew that better than anyone. He'd given years of his life to the abyss, mapping it, making sense of it, bringing its secrets up into the light. He died in 1997, doing the one thing he loved. He gave his life to the deep, and the deep kept him. Even now, on Andros, plenty of fishermen give the blue holes a wide berth. Not out of fear, they'll tell you, out of respect. For where the water has no bottom, a man has no business being. And if one day, in the Bahamas, you find yourself flying over a dark ring of water, a perfect circle, set in the turquoise like an open eye, think on, it breathes. It keeps hold of all it takes. And perhaps it's watching you. This tale, like all those of the Caribbean, was carried from mouth to mouth by lamplight in the gatherings of the evening. The old ones passed it down to us. Tonight, it belongs to you. Keep it. Pass it on. That's how the legends never die.